transfer.
Alright, you're back.
I'm back. Battery's charged.
Battery's charged.
Case is clean. Again. How many times I cleaned this today?
That I remember 6.
I don't think it's been that many, but probably 4 at least. 4 or 5, I lost track. It doesn't matter.
Huh, 4 times.
I clean it every time it needs to be cleaned. How's that?
Exactly.
Now, off video, I had to work on the breather valve over here a little bit because it didn't fit. So I had to put in a lathe, spin it, sandpaper it down to knock off the wear marks from the old motor. And then it still wouldn't go in the hole. It bottomed out at the bottom down there. So I had to go in there and massage it with a massaging tool like this and work in the high spots. And now that I clean all the grit out, it really works nice. It's like it's supposed to. So if they don't turn freely, you should make them turn freely. Makes a big difference. Now, we got the cam cover kind of done. We haven't checked to see if it works yet. Now you can pre-check it if you want to. It doesn't really matter too much right now because until the whole crank's together you don't really know. But if you want to pre-check it, you can take your bearings, put them on your shaft. And kind of just like before, you put it inside the motor, just like we checked our main bearing.
Mm-hmm.
Still got our clearance too. That's what it is. You take this. See how it slid on nice and freely?
Mm-hmm.
See how it spins nice and free? That's a good sign. That means it's not binding for now. We'll find out when we put the whole crank in there.
Yeah.
But
There'll be ample time for it to bind later.
right now, it's about 90% good. I'll still reserve the last 10% for it to get all screwed up because why not? Everything else has been normal. Okay, so just about done with everything on that side. Now I didn't do a final check after I cleaned all the grit and stuff out of the cover. Just to see how it really goes on there. See how it's a little bit looser now?
Mm-hmm.
Now see how it's more up and down than side to side? That's because the shaft's probably not round. Yeah. Yeah, so this is out around. This is out around a little bit. Because as I rotate it, still stays loose that one way. And now the cam was working good before, as I recall. It kind of disappeared on me. Right over there. Well, unless this is a generator motor, that ain't going to work.
Oop.
Besides, it's had a bunch of rust on it.
Oh, that's right.
We believe in putting rusty parts back in motors.
There you go. Is that factory rust or is that rust aftermarket?
That must be factory rust because it's got rust on it. Now I'm probably going to have to lightly polish some of this rust off. You can see a burnish mark in there where it's worn. See those wear marks?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see it. Before it fit right in there. There it goes. So it's a little bit snug, but if everything turns straight, that's usable, but it's snug. But I got to clean the corrosion on. That's a little bit of buildup right there, which makes it a little bit tighter.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a little scrub pad and just scrub that lightly. And if I feel anything in there more than that, I'll take it on the lathe and just lightly spin it to knock off the high spot. There's no rust over here in the bearing area, otherwise I wouldn't use it. And the lobes look good too. This is secondary out here. The gears don't really matter, but obviously we don't like all the rust deposits in there, but it is what it is. I don't know why it's all rusty, but that's how I got it. So obviously it was precision storage someplace. No deal. It's not going to hurt anything, so I don't worry about it too awful bad. Now we cut this shorter so we know it works. We're going to have to put a new seal in here yet. So we're going to knock off that old seal. I don't know how old that seal is, but we have a new one in the gasket set, so we might as well use it. So I just use a large screwdriver. Try not to push on your wire under there and break it. Now you jam between the seal, the bushing, and the back side of that steel cup in there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hit on the rubber, don't hit on the case, hit it in between. So you got to kind of feel it out in there to get the spot. There it is. Did you hear it pop in?
Mm-hmm.
Stand up as much as you can and give it a whack. Of course, that one it didn't come out. The seal's tearing. Think it came out that far. The seal went right through the seal. Tear mark in there. See the tear? That's where it poached through.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a bad seal now.
It's not reusable?
You could reuse it, but it might leak. I would recommend putting a new one in there. It comes in the gasket set anyway.
There you go.
It was unknown quality, so plus I don't know how much metal was embedded in the rubber, which chews up that new cam that's already all chewed up over there, remember? So it's better to get rid of it. Okay, so we'll push the seal on that later. Okay, now those bearings are good. Now the last thing I got to check before the case can get moved on is we got to check the oil pump shaft, which appears to be full of rust, like a lot of the other stuff on this motor. So I'm not sure all this rust is coming from, but it's definitely best if it was not on there. Looks like most of it wiped off. See how the snap ring's nice and loose?
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. So we're going to have to tighten that up, because that can pop off, which would make a bad day to your oil pump working. Okay, we want to make sure this goes inside of our bushing over here, because it's a bitch to fix this after the motor's all assembled. Okay, so that goes in there nice and free.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and loose. They purposely make it loose so it won't be tight. Okay, so that's pretty much the last thing you check. You should make sure the probably the cam goes in here. I didn't put the bearing in there, so we got to make sure it's good. Appears to have adequate clearance and not sticking, so that's good. So it helps to pre-check everything before you get to the point to assemble it, because it's a lot easier to fix these problems now than later. Okay, we're going to assume all the holes are good and all that stuff, so we'll draw our limits of checking everything. Okay, so now the crank can be assembled because we got the pinion shaft all fitted, so we have to deal with that no more. We already had the rods fitted, so that'll be the next thing to do. So make sure my bench is clean. Kind of important. I already took the bearing off. That uses that big tool right up there. Have to watch a different video to see me using it. Alright, so here's our new crank pin. There's our used key. It's been used before. Almost fits. Make sure you never use a sharp steel hammer on anything that's heat treated. Like that. Oops, I didn't read the manual again. Appears to fit in there like it's supposed to. Key's not binding on anything. So it's ready to go together. Aren't you glad I listened to my own rules? Because it's not my rules, it's other people's rules. These should be 1.5 inches, these big ones. Where's the small nut at? Ooh, look at that dinky nut. That ain't the one. Oh, there's no nuts. Hey, dumbass. No nuts. Okay, I know that. Okay, it appears our red Loctite is missing. Need to send back someplace. So I put sleeve retainer Loctite on the taper, stay off the hole. And I put red Loctite on the thread, which isn't here right now, so I just use green. This is a little bit more severe than I normally would use, but whatever. I don't feel like walking them back to get the other one. We're just over gripping it, that's all. See, that's been used on this side before, not this side.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it back the same way. Now, unlike modern vehicles, you can actually reuse the hardware on Harleys. This is not torque to yield, it's torque to tight. Appears to be tight. Did that look tight?
Sounded tight.
I don't think it's tight yet. Let's go tighten it down. My adapters, so the flywheel don't fall through. My holding fixture. Not that much for now. Special 1.5" nut, or socket I mean. Notice how it's been trimmed to clear.
Mm-hmm.
It's also been shaved flat so there's no chamfer in there. Gets on the whole nut. Okay, you gotta have at least about 4.5, 5 tens on that to hold it initially.
And then what are we aiming for on this?
How hard is this guy gonna drive it?
If he beats the speed limit ever on any given day, we'd all be surprised.
Oh, so he's gonna beat the piss out of it.
Yep.
Okay, that means we're gonna go 400.
There you go.
If it'll go 400.
I think you hit it.
No, it was only at 350. The scale's over in there in the
Oh, I
box.
got it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's about 375. Stock torque is like 200 maybe, 180, 180, 200. 375, that's close.
200, 375, what's the difference?
Yeah. Now, the tighter you make that, the more the flywheel wants to stay straight. These things are going to knock out a true as soon as you rev them up anyway, so that's why I can only ride these bikes about, about 500 feet at most before I knock them out of true. That'd be like the top of low gear and the shift in the second. Sometimes I get all the way to second gear before it goes bad. But I don't know why that's like that, but for some reason. Appears that somebody used up all my oil. Was that you?
Nope.
Now, more than likely, I'm going to have to grind the rod, I bet. We'll see. Nope. Okay, a little bit of oil in there. I could have waited before I did that, but got ahead of myself. Okay, bearing cages. Female rod. Direction of rotation. One of those. One nut. Oh, this is a good one. Look how loose that is. That means I can torque it pretty good. It's going to get half of that after I torque it. That was only about 200 foot-pounds going by what I did on the other side. When you pop and you hit them flat, 180 from the crank pin. It pops the tapers off. Does not hurt the flogger when you do that. Now the reason I did that was because I might have to shorten this rod up here, narrow it up. Because when you over torque the nut, it shoves the tapers in deeper, which makes the flywheels close together, which locks up the rod set. So that could be a problem for some people.
Just anyone who wants it to run.
Yeah. That's why I check them. About 30% of the one cranks I do, I have to go shorten the rods up, 20 thou or so. I already cleaned these earlier. Then I put them on this nice dirty ass lint rag to make sure they're still clean. They look clean. Look at those clean hands.
There you go.
See, we're another clean. Okay, now you got to put all of these in and don't forget any of them. There's 17 per row. How many is that? Too many to count. So many. And we put the oil on the crank pin because that actually helps to hold the rollers in so they don't fall out. It also means you have to have the rollers straight up and down, so gravity will help hold them in for you and not make them fall out. You do not want to use a grease, because grease most of the time will lock up a roller and not let it roll, it'll slide. And a sliding roller is a roller that's soon to fail, because they're supposed to roll, not slide. Did I forget one yet?
Not yet.
I haven't even dropped any on the floor yet either.
It's early.
Yeah, I still got a bunch more to go. There's still opportunity to screw up. I believe in taking full advantage of those opportunities when I can get them.
The cages were cracked on my last motor. Is that a bad sign?
That is not a good sign when your stuff is broken. That usually means you probably should have replaced it.
Oh, I did.
That's good. I'm not sure how you would have broke them because I've never broken a cage on my bike except on my KR. It had aluminum cages and they were notorious for breaking, he always told me. So it only lasted 10 years. I don't know how many nitrous runs I had on it, but probably more than 100. I was knocking at Bonneville halfway through the week, pretty bad. So naturally I just kept running it.
Oh, I kept running mine until I took it out and brought it here.
So it was getting pretty bad on the last. It was actually getting kind of notchy when you rotated it. It had high spots, tight spots. So I go, well, I got one more run to go. We got to get this record. We got to make another pass. So screw it. So if it blows, it blows. So we ran it, got the record, brought it home, tore it apart, and found out there was no cages left. All I had was aluminum and rollers. Every cage was broken at every spot. So there's no cages left. It's all shrapnel. Okay, looks like they're all in there.
Sure does.
Good deal. Maybe that one.
They were.
Yep, sometimes they want to come out. I think it's time to refill my oil container. You want to make sure you have lots of oil in here. Because it might be the only oil this thing sees in the next 20 miles. I've seen that happen. What do you mean the oil pump's not pumping? Let's ride down to the shop and see what the problem is. Yeah, rollers are not staying in here today. Shit, rarely do I lose any rollers. I think that was the fifth one. Alright. Now these cranks are piles of crap because they will not stay true. Even when you pull that down to 450 foot-pounds of torque, it still comes out of true if you turn the throttle on. Because I've done that. So that means as soon as I start riding the bike and start having fun, and the tack needle goes over 5,000, the bike starts to vibrate. And the more times I have fun, the more it vibrates. Imagine that. When you have the crappy old 5-piece cranks, where you can tighten them down really tight, they tend to stay true for some reason. Okay, you can put it together like that, or like this. Now, you need to have about 3.5 inches between here so it goes up and down the cylinders. And you can see that we're up about 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So that means the motor won't turn over. So you have to flip it over, put it in the correct direction. See how much further it goes now?
Yep.
And on a stroker motor, you actually have to go in and cut these sometimes. Okay, which side we're on the pinion shaft, aren't we? So that means the rods go in this direction. So you want the rear rod to be the fork rod, not the front rod. Very important. Oh, got ahead of myself. If you bump the bench, it's going to fall on the floor, so don't bump the bench. Okay, there's an assembly lube on that. We have a different type of assembly lube over here. Now this here, I don't like putting it more than halfway up the taper because I don't want it to go up into those bearings at all. And you don't want to put a very thick layer on here because it will go up into the bearings and then you will have a bearing problem. When your bearings don't rotate, they tend to go bad. Appears we have an oil leak already. Transfer that over there. Now I put the wheel on here like this, and then I rotate it slightly, and that smears it. Puts an even layer of Loctite all around. Okay, now when you tighten this down, you want to try to keep the crank true, so that means you don't want to go like this. I'm using the workbench to kind of hold it straight and flat. Of course, it will change when I torque it, so if you torque it too much, it'll just keep rotating. No problem. So you grab out your scale, you check to see how flat it is. See how it's way the hell out?
Mm-hmm.
Felt it move. Good.
It's getting closer.
Yeah, it's close enough to go with now. Still a little bit out, but I can live with it. That's what the tray stands for. Okay, now we go over and tighten it up. Make sure you got in play in here. We still have some. Bring the oil with you.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to let the press kind of center it up a little bit. Tries to hold it square. And we tighten it up. How much did we tighten it last time?
380 was it?
Something like that. So you get one notch, loosen up, hit it again. That way you don't pull the flowers like this.
Right.
Because that means you have to true it out again. Okay, where's my number at? We're on the black ones. That's 365 or so. Still that rod movement, so I can torque it a little bit more. Pull four.
There's 4.
4/4 there. Always like the left one to be a little bit tighter than the right one, because there's more load on this side when you dump the clutch. Not that I would ever purposely do that.
I have no idea what you mean.
Yeah. Appears we got a junk motor in the way. These appear to be the old cases. We are going to be needing this one out. Was that case getting in the way?
Yeah.
Right there. Next week's job.
There you go.
Alright, one shroom stand. Got that oil?
I do.
You want to make sure your taper is here. Centers. Got a little spot of oil on them. Otherwise it will gall up the inside of the hole in the main shaft. Very important. Just flip that light on down the rail there.
Yep. Ah, there it is.
Oh, I forgot something. Back to the workbench.
What'd you forget?
Just a piece of crap crank. So you have to actually assemble the pinion shaft on here. Because every time you touch this nut,
Right?
the crank will change its trueness. All these one-piece cranks have the same problem. See how thin this crank is right here?
Yep.
The early ones are a lot bigger and thicker and stronger. These things flex and move and twist all over the place. Every time you torque that nut down, it changes where this pinion shaft is at. And that changes how the trueness of your crank is. It'll actually move a couple thou. So we're going to take our bearings that we're going to use, just lay them up on there. We can't put them on yet because I got to use the trim stand on this edge. The bearing doesn't want to go in the hole. Good save, huh?
Yeah, very good save.
There you go. See, it goes on now. You got to make sure you get the washer. Here it is. Make sure it's a thick one. Yep. See, that goes on. Okay, we get our oil pump gear, feed gear, and our nut. This is nice. Ain't that special? Here's the socket I need is missing. One Wonderful.